You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Oh, we promised it yesterday. We're back today. Back today for more of Engage. It's the show where we engage with your comments because you have engaged with us by listening to Mission Log and then ranting or raving about what we have to say there. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Norman Lau, complimenting, critiquing, everything in between, because what you found that we have said somewhere along the line was engaging enough for you to send us a message.
Yes.
Or an email or a text or somewhere in there.
Sometimes they're very short.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are idiots. You guys are brilliant. Whatever.
And go.
Get them both. Yeah. But sometimes there is so much to unpack and there are just so many angles to these things. And that's, look, for as critical as we may have been about certain story elements or whatever, this is kind of the great thing about it. We're here talking about it and our listeners are here talking about it. And it just shows to the strength and the depth of the writing of the material that we're dealing with, that there is a lot to discuss. So,
and when it comes to Section 31, there is a lot to discuss.
There is. And that's where we are again today. So we had that great message, that Patreon message yesterday from Josh. And today we have kind of a bookend piece for that. And this is an email from Jason. So Norm, why don't you share that with us?
So last time on Mission Log Engage, ... And here we are with the conclusion. So this is from Jason. This has been bugging me, and honestly, I admit that I can see it being, as you guys say, but I also know, quote, in parentheses, and yes, timeline jump, in parentheses, that Section 31 was named after the article, not actually authorized by the article in the Starfleet Charter. Going back to Inquisition, the line given by Sloan was that Section 31 was part of the original Starfleet Charter, which was clarified in Enterprise as being a bit about suspending the rules during times of emergency, so not actually naming an organization. And yes, Disco played merry hell with that in Season 2 of Discovery.
Yeah.
If we take that Section 31 was indeed not something the Federation actually created, instead being, shall we say, a Badmiral Club, I can see that Dr. Bashir has a point. It's not justifiable to condemn an entire group on the actions of the few bad apples. Or so I thought until Sisko's line about the Federation Council and then telling Odo not to take matters into his own hands. What is frustrating about that line, more so than what you gents went off on, was the timing. Dogs of War aired in April of 1998. In December, we saw the crew of the Enterprise E take matters into their own hands. In Insurrection, with Captain Picard correctly noting that even during a war, inexcusable acts are not suddenly excusable. It, and the ending of What You Leave Behind, really does make me question if the team of DS9 got Star Trek.
Whew. There is a lot there, Jason. Thank you. Look, I'm going to say, first of all, I feel like I just sort of want to dispense with the semantic argument about whether or not the Federation Charter created Section 31 or if it simply allowed, it was like the trap door, as you like to say, Norman, that allowed Section 31 to come into existence. Regardless, however you want to parse that, Section 31 exists and people like Sloan exist. And they are in cahoots with enough of the of Starfleet brass and presumably the Federation at large that this is a problem. And this is a problem that is not always being dealt with, and apparently for a very long time, however long that time may be. So it's there, and now we get to deal with the ramifications of the fact that they are there.
I just want to jump in here, John.
Yeah,
if they're funded the way they are, if they have the sources the way they have, if they have the collateral and clout and influence and technology and all of the traps and trimmings of a secret organization that can do whatever they want, whenever they want, somebody knows something. The money just doesn't appear out of nowhere.
Exactly. Well, unless you have a replicator.
Well, of course. Well, I should say
But-
the Federation credits don't just materialize out of thin
Yes,
air.
yeah. So, so there is coordination going on with all of that. So it's out there and it is reality of Star Trek. And look, I felt like, look, this is beating a dead horse, but I felt like if there was an opportunity within DS9 storytelling to just say, and then Section 31 came along and did this, but as soon as we realized what Section 31 was, we exposed it and either got rid of it or pulled the power out from it so it wouldn't continue to be this shadow hanging over the very good work of the Federation and Starfleet. But they didn't go that way, and they just said, look, it's been around a long time, and they're just sort of out there permeating everything that we do. That's the problem that I have, because it strips that moral authority away. And yeah, Bad Moral Club, maybe not. Again, that would be sort of just, again, figuring out who all knows about it, who all is in support of this, who all is clueless about it. Wait, I have to assume I'm going to keep Captain Picard in pretty high regard and say that he would be horrified at the existence of this and to think that they're pulling strings in the shadows, behind the good work that somebody like he is doing. And that's why I love this line. Well, the paraphrasing here of what Picard's message is in Insurrection. And that is a point that I've been trying to make on Mission Log for a very long time, which is to say that, for all the email and comments that we get that say, yeah, the war is a really bad thing, or the Borg are really bad, and wow, something like genocide is really bad too. But it's the but that really bothers me, because when you can say but and apply it to something terrible, murder is bad, but what about this?
And there's that old adage, forget everything that they said before the word but.
Exactly. Yeah, and I will spare all of you here for the mini rant that I had the other day in our Patreon exclusive chat on Discord,
It
comparing.
was awesome.
Well, look, because that was for a select tiny audience. I'm gonna polish that up and dust it off and put it up on stage someday. But it was a comparison of Picard in the First Duty versus some of the plot lines and morally ambiguous decisions that have been made on DS9, and just saying, okay, which one of these is the story that you want to hear? Which one of these is the story you want to tell? And do these complement each other, or do they cancel each other out? Because they are directly in opposition. So I very much appreciate you leaving that bit there with us, Jason. As to whether or not the writers get it, I think that's a dangerous road to go down. Professional writers, they know their craft, they know the story, they know the characters. They are given the leeway and the artistic freedom to tell the stories that they want to tell. It's not my place to say that they do or don't get it. But pushing an envelope, oh yeah, they're pushing an envelope. So I've taken up a lot of air here, Norman. Please save me.
No, I mean, there's something that also came up in that Patreon discussion, which I thought was a really good counterpoint. Perhaps showing these as examples, like Section 31, how people reacted to them, some of the morally questionable decisions that were made by quote unquote the hero figures or the main casting crew. What if they were the perfect examples of cautionary tales, showing us, the viewers, that in Star Trek, these are still things you are not supposed to do, even though our heroes that are Starfleet and that follow the Federation code are breaking or leading by a poorer example from, say, the Picards of the world or the Kirks of the world. Kirk was no Boy Scout either. So I think that you can see it in a way where it does make sense that some of these more questionable stories and ideas and themes that the Deep Space Nine episodes explore are simply cautionary tales. And how do you internalize them as opposed to how the characters on screen internalize them? And if you internalize them in a way where it really questions, is this really Star Trek, then perhaps you have internalized Star Trek in a way where it has guided your moral compass
Mm.
all of these years. And you're looking at this show saying, this is not right, but I'm glad that it's being explored in a way. So I know that Star Trek has always kept me in check with my own moral direction and know what is right and what is wrong.
See, here's where we're going to go deeper on stage or in a longer format someday, because that cautionary tale, is it cautionary if there's no, I don't want to say punishment, but if there's no kind of recognition or payback or something at the end, if it's just like, here's some very bad behavior, but we got what we wanted, so we're moving on. I'm interested in the moment where a character can acknowledge and say, and this kind of goes back to Sisko in The Pale Moonlight, saying to himself, confessing to himself, I did it, it was wrong, I would do it again. Okay, he can be justified in his bad decision. But if that's never, called to the mat by somebody else, by a superior or by a war crimes tribunal, whatever the case may be,
Or maybe even Jake,
or maybe even Jake. There
his
you go.
son.
Yeah,
What if
yeah,
his son was appalled, like just taken
yeah,
aback and ashamed of what his father did?
yeah,
It's like, I can't believe it. You were espousing like the merits of being a Starfleet officer ever since I was a boy.
yeah.
This is the road, the example that you're setting for somebody like me to believe in.
Ooh, ooh, that's heavy, man. That's heavy. But I want people I feel like there are people who listen to the show who think that we're just picking on the bad decision and say these characters should never make a bad decision. And that's not the case at all.
Indeed.
I think that makes them very human and very relatable and very understandable. The question is, what do we learn from that? And what
Mhm.
did they learn from that? And how do we shape that into something better where there is accountability?
Right.
So, yeah. Wow. All right. Well, obviously, this is stuff that we could go on and on and on about.
I think we have a panel discussion point.
I think we do. I think we have about
Absolutely.
9 of them. Yeah. So, Norman, if people want to chime in, where should they do so?
Well, we're looking forward to hearing your comments or reading your comments here on this episode or any of the episodes that you can find on the Roddenberry Entertainment channel here on YouTube. You can always send us your comments at mission log, not to mission log, at missionlog at roddenberry.com. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Mission Log Pod. And remember, just like this, we may engage with your comments on the air.